Hello and welcome to Skype Academy presents call queues and auto attendant for Skype for Business Online. Before we start with the training, we do want to give this disclaimer. Note that this is a point of time view. We recorded this training in December 2017 and all the features and functionality you see are current as of this date. Note that Office 365 is ongoing innovation, so we only innovate on a constant basis. If you're looking at this training a couple of months after it was recorded, new features might have been added. So always refer to the latest trainings. Go to aka.ms/sa-cq-aa for the latest version of this training. And you can find more trainings at aka.ms/Skype Academy. Any updates since our last training from October are marked with the update tag. Any additional information behind what those updates are can be found at aka.ms/aacq-update. So the following features are in preview. If you see the preview tag, those are the specific features that are in preview. So I'm Cornel Bullens, I'm a Senior Program Manager in the Customer Experience and Deployment team, and I'll be taking you through this training. The key learnings from this training. You can use the auto attendant as a virtual receptionist. You can use call queues to distribute a large amount of calls. And the both online, hybrid and Cloud Connector edition are fully supported. So for today, we'll talk about call queues and auto attendants. Then we'll talk about their common dependencies. We'll do a call queues deep dive, and then we'll do an auto attendant deep dive. So let's start with about call queues and auto attendant. So what are call queues? So call queues provide an automated call distribution for incoming calls. They're often used together with auto attendants. And basically you have this main number, a call comes in, and we then distribute the incoming calls over one or more agents. This is helpful, for instance, if you have a large sales department, so everybody gets offered the calls, so your customers are helped as quickly as possible without the interception of a receptionist. You can have up to 50 agents in a single call queue. You can configure max queue size and max allowed call time. There's an option to set up overflow or timed out calls to send to either call queues, auto attendants, voicemails, or directly to agents or users. So auto attendants are a little bit more intelligent than a call queue because you can provide options. Basically, just like a call queue, a number is assigned to the agent, to the auto attendant. The auto attendant picks up and then can provide information like, hey, press 1 for sales, press 2 for services. We also support speech to text, so you can also do say sales for sales, say services for services, things like that. And then they can send to either a call queue, to a user directly, or you can provide a backup operator. The nice thing is that they can be configured to behave differently during holidays. So they can say something like, hey, welcome to Contoso. It's currently Christmas, so we operate in a different opening hours. There's the option of open and closed hours, so business hours we call them. You can display different greetings and menu prompts after hours and during working hours. You can interface these with call queues, other auto attendants, users, or simply voicemail. So the nice thing is you can combine call queues and auto attendants. For example, you can have an auto attendant that picks up, and then you can say for operator press say 0, for sales press say 1, for services press say 2, for technical support press say 3, and then you can actually redirect that call when they say 3 to a technical support queue, which is a call queue. That way you can combine the best of both worlds and get an efficient call distribution system. So what are some of these common dependencies? So the supported environments as of these dates that we support both online and hybrid. So that means that agents and operators can be homed online or on premise. If your Skype for Business on-premises users are not connected through hybrid to your online environment, they cannot leverage call queues or auto attendant. The call queues and auto attendants, they are objects in Skype for Business Online. If you have on-premises Active Directory, you do require some additional configuration to allow your on-premises users to call the online call queues. We will cover that in this presentation. So the concept of routing directly via SIP to a call queue or auto attendant without the intervention of a service number is called SIP routing. Each call queue and auto attendant have a SIP address. Those SIP addresses can be used by Skype for Business users to directly call the service, which means that phone numbers are optional for those call queues and those auto attendants. This is especially helpful if you have multiple call queues and they only need to be reachable for internal users or directly from an auto attendant. That way, you only need to assign a service number to the auto attendant. You have to realize that corresponding objects for the call queue and auto attendant, they need to exist in Azure Active Directory. If you're using Azure Active Directory only, without syncing to a local AD, you don't need to do any additional configuration. If you do have an on-premises AD, you will need to create a local object for each auto attendant or call queue that has a SIP address to enable routing towards that call queue or auto attendant for the on-premises user. We'll discuss that in the following slides. So to enable SIP routing in an Azure Active Directory sync environment, you should do the following steps. So your environment has an on-premises AD that's synced to Azure Active Directory, and there are no on-premises Skype for Business servers deployed. What you should do is you should get the SIP URI for the auto attendant or online call queue via PowerShell or the GUI. Then create a local object to which you set the full name, the same as your call queue or auto attendant display name. The logo name must be the same as the primary URI of your call queue or auto attendant, including the domain name. Set the user as a disabled account and set the password to never expires. You can add a phone number starting with tel to provide incoming call routing, and you should do a start-80 sync cycle. After their sync is complete, open the call queue or the auto attendant, click on edit, don't change anything, and click save. This will commit all the changes to Azure Active Directory. How do you get these SIP URIs? So for the auto attendant, you can go to the GUI and it's shown when you edit or create a new auto attendant. You can see an example on the right. For the call queues, you should do a get-c as hunt group in PowerShell. You can also do get-c as organizational auto attendant to get the AA SIP URI. So to enable SIP routing in Skype for Business Hybrid, so your on-premises AD must be synced to AD, and you should have an on-premises Skype for Business server configured for hybrid configuration with Skype for Business Online. You must have Skype for Business 2015. That includes a Federation Edge, a Federation Edge Next Pool, and a Next Hop. So your on-premise environment can talk to the cloud. Agents and targets must be on Skype for Business Server 2015. So your configuration steps. So first you should collect the detailed commandlet, and we show you in the next step how you can collect that. Then you execute that commandlet in PowerShell and you create the disabled user object. And then AAD Connect must be configured to sync disabled users object, not just the active user objects. So how do we get this detailed commandlet that you should run on premises? So once you create a new or add an existing call queue, if you haven't run this commandlet, an error will be displayed. You can copy this commandlet, but you should replace the OU, which now says a valid OU, with a correct OU in which you want to create the object. You then run this commandlet in your on-premises environment. So how do we use existing phone numbers with hybrid voice? So if you want to reuse existing phone numbers, the easiest way to go is to port those numbers to Microsoft. If you want to forward them from an on-premises environment, you must use a session border controller. when you're using hybrid voice. You must configure the SBC to manipulate the to header from phone number at contoso.com to the SIP URI of the AA or call queue. You then route the call to either Cloud Connector Edition or the mediation server. So if you want to configure a Microsoft hosted phone number, you must have a service number. These are not the same as the calling plan user numbers. You can acquire new service numbers under the voice phone numbers tab and press the plus button, or you can just port service numbers to online. If you want to suppress dial out numbers, that might be useful if you want your agents when dialing out to only show the company number and not their personal numbers. You can run this PowerShell commandlet for each call queue or auto attendant for which you want to configure this. So let's take a look at the call queue in our deep dive. So when you compare the online call queue and the on-premises hunt group, there are now very few differences between the two, and we're obviously working to make that gap smaller and smaller. So what's the caller's experience? So when I call in to a call queue, first thing I will hear is a greeting if I've configured that. Something like, hey, welcome to Contoso. We are connecting you to the next available agent. We are then connected to an agent based on agent availability. When the maximum concurrent calls or a timeout is reached, we can connect to a different queue, connect to an auto attendant, we can disconnect the call, forward to a separate agent, or we can just go directly to an agent's voicemail. So what's the experience of the callee? So when I'm an agent and getting the call, I will get call information, and the toast will show me the call queue name and the caller's ID. We will use address book resolution to display the name. My actions that I can do, I can either pick up or not. If I pick up, then I'm connected with the caller after the connection is complete, which can take between 1 to 3 seconds. If we ignore the call, no missed call notification is generated and the next incoming call will be displayed. Outgoing calls can have the call queue caller ID if we have enabled number suppression. So we have different routing methods. So let's take a look at the attendant routing method. This basically means that when a call comes in, all agents are rang in parallel. It's the same as attendant routing in the on-premises response group services. Even if you're already in a call, you will get a new call offered from the call queue, which you can ignore or pick up, placing your existing call on hold. Only agents that are offline or on Do Not Disturb or set to opt out will not get a call. So even if you're set to away or you're currently in a call, you will still get offered new calls. An agent can have multiple calls on hold. So what's the serial routing method? This basically rings the agents in series. So first agent 1, then 2, then 3. It's the same as serial routing in the response group services. Agents already in a call will be skipped. And then also agents offline, Do Not Disturb or opt out, will also not get a call. You cannot have a call on hold. So how do we deploy call queues? So for the agent groups, we support agents in distribution lists, security groups, or Office 365 groups. Agents need to be in groups. We don't support adding agents directly. They will need to be synchronized from Azure Active Directory, AAD, to Azure Address Book Service. Please note that the synchronization delay for a new DL and a new security group or a new Office 365 group can take up to 6 hours. DLs need to be in AABS before a call queue can use them. If you want to verify if your DL is in AABS, you can use the find-cs group commandlet to verify this. You can also use the get-cs hunt group to actually see when this distribution list was last updated. If you wanted to use nested groups, so groups within groups, that's also supported. So who can get a call from the call queue? Basically anyone, unless you're an external PSTN number. So greetings for a call queue, they're optional. A pre-recorded greeting can be upgraded. You cannot do Text to speech, you can use MP3, WMA or WAV, and the maximum file size is 5 megabytes. We do support music on hold and ringback. If you're using music on hold, please note that you have to be sure that those are copyright free, or at least you've paid for the copyright fee. You will need to train your agents to avoid making mistakes and having people disconnect the call by accident. If you've configured this, agents can either opt in or opt out of agent groups. So let's say they go for a lunch break, they can opt out of the group. Agents can sign in and out using the added settings online, as you can see in our screenshot. Agent behavior affects call routing. So if they go to do not disturb or to offline, they will deflect calls. If this is the only agent in the group, then now your group isn't reachable anymore. Unfortunately, sometimes the status is triggered by accident. So how do we meet these prerequisites that we have? So first you should create an agent group, and you can create a security distribution group and add those agents. Then if you want to use a service number, you should create that before creating the call queue. You can create your greeting, so you can upload it when creating the group, set your limits such as concurrent calls and waiting time, and decide on what your overflow options will be. So to configure this, go to Skype for Business Online, open call routing, select call queues, and click on plus add new to add a new call queue. When creating this new call queue, you can set a display name, you can set a phone number if you want to, or you can just use SIP routing. Select your SIP domain as a domain and upload your greeting if you need one. If you want to use custom music on hold or ringback, this is the place to configure it, just as the call distribution method. If you want to offer agent opt-out, you can select that here. Add any group that you want through the search call agents option there, and you can set the maximum calls in the queue. You can also configure the option for the maximum number of calls and how long a call should wait in the queue. Click on Save when you're done. To do this in PowerShell, these are the command lines that you can use for that. To configure this in PowerShell, here's a PowerShell example. So, to operate call queues. In the Skype Business Admin panel, you should open call routing. This is where you can test and edit the call queues. So to test call queues, you can do this by pressing the test button. This will call your call queue. If you have any issues, you should open a support ticket. Now let's take a look at the auto attendant in this deep dive. So the experience that the caller will have is when they call the auto attendant, they will hear welcome, like welcome to Contoso. Please type or say the person that you're trying to reach, followed by pound. This is fully configurable. Then outside of business hours, you can configure a different experience. Something like welcome to Contoso, we're currently closed, please leave a voicemail. Or perhaps if there's a holiday coming up, you can use the holiday schedule to set up something like we're closed for Christmas holidays. Speech is configurable. You can upload your own file or use text to speech. The options are configurable, like typing or saying names that you want to go to. Yeah, you can use DTMF. And the operator can be any phone system enabled user, call queue, auto attendant, or voicemail. So the holiday experience. They can be configured in an overlapping nesting manner, which means that I can set a holiday schedule for December 24th to January 5th. That would say something like, thank you for calling during our Christmas holiday. Please leave a message and we'll get back to you after our holidays. But then you can also set a specific holiday, for example, on January 1st, that will overrule the larger holidays. We will always use the most specific holiday. So if I would configure a new holiday just for January 1st, on January 1st, people would hear Happy New Year, thank you for calling, please leave a message and we'll get back to you after our holidays. To configure the holiday schedule is just like the business hours call handling and the business hours. You can add a new holiday, create a custom greeting or upload your own, and you can say what should happen after we've displayed the message. Dial by name using DTMF. How does this work? Now, if the auto attendant wants to redirect you, it will ask you to press your name. In the example, we're using Ben, which is 236 pound. If there are too many people, you will get an error like, sorry, I found too many people with similar names. And then you can do Ben space Joe pound. It will then tell you all the possible options. You must terminate your DTMF input with pound key. If you are unsuccessful in finding the right person, you will be redirected to the operator. So to use dial by name using speech recognition, you will get a prompt, something like to reach your party by name, say it now, or press the corresponding number keys to enter the part of the full name. You can always use DTMF as an alternative to speech. You don't need to terminate speech input with pound, and there are voice commands like back, repeat, etc. We will return up to 5 matches when we match a name with speech recognition. For example, when we say Benedict, you would hear for Benedict Jones press 1, for Joanna Benedict press say 2. Once you make your choice, you will be transferred to the correct person. If we can't find someone after 3 unsuccessful tries, we will redirect you to the operator. We do support multi-level menu options in PowerShell, but it's easier to just have multiple auto attendants linking to each other. If you're doing a dial by name, you can allow callers to say your name, type a name to reach a person. You can reach anyone in your directory. You don't need a calling plan license. You don't need a PSTN number. They don't need enterprise voice. You can just not forward to an external PSTN number. If the user you're forwarding to doesn't have a calling plan or PSTN number or enterprise voice, they cannot forward the call to a PSTN number. So you should be aware of that. So dial scopes. Dial scopes are something you should definitely configure. A dial scope determines the search area for your auto attendant. If you set up your dial scope correctly, this will prevent people from dialing in and finding your CEO and being redirected to your CEO. You can either exclude a group using a dial scope or only include a specific group. So some of the search options that you have are displayed here for both speech and DTMF. When you're using dial by name, there are some limitations. So while you can always use DTMF, if you want to use speech text, you cannot use that if your Azure Active Directory has more than 80,000 users. We will tell you this in the configuration panel, and we will do an automatic fallback to DTMF. So who can be an operator for an auto attendant? Basically anyone, unless you're an on-premises object, such as a response group service. So which languages do we support? You can have one language per auto attendant. If you want multiple languages, you will need multiple auto attendants. There are 27 languages available for the auto attendant. It's a female system voice, and we do text to speech. For speech recognition, we support 14 languages. DTMF is always available, and you can have voice commands and custom voice commands. This enables you to do hands-free system navigation. These are the languages that are currently supported. So know before you go. Please note that the auto tenant will search the entire tenant by default. So you should definitely configure a dial scope to ensure that there's no improper usage of this commandant. Service numbers are numbers that can be requested in a limited supply. So if you want to have a phone number directly assigned to a auto tenant, you must have this configured before actually deploying the auto attendant. More information about service numbers can be found at aka.ms/sa-orkaa-sn. How do you deploy auto attendants? First of all, your tenant must meet the prerequisites. This means you must have E5 or E3 with phone system. It's not required to have calling plans or audio conferencing. If you want to use toll-free service numbers, you must have communication credits. So looking at these deployment scenarios, an auto tenant will basically have a SIP URI assigned to it, and optionally also a service number. People can search by name. We will send them to an agent, or they can be transferred to an operator or transferred to someone with DTMF. So what we do is we first assign PSTN service numbers to this auto tenant if we want to use them. They can be toll or toll free. If you want to have toll free, you must have communication credits before you can request these. We do language and speech recognition, and this must be configured if you want to enable this. Set up your operator, set up your business hours and after hours. There's a flexible call flow that will allow you to disconnect or redirect, give you menu options, or dial by name. Definitely configure the dial scope to ensure that people are not accidentally being transferred to the CEO. So to configure business hours, note that when you're configuring business hours, those are basically the hours in which your auto tenant will act as your business is opened, and they do observe the time zone that you've selected when creating the auto tenant. By default, it's set to open 24/7, and you can go for custom to define your business hours. You can set time in 30 minutes intervals, and you can have multiple breaks in a day. So the dial scope, we talked a little bit about that. This limits your search area. You can include or exclude specific groups or people. The nice thing you can do is, for example, you can select a dial scope and you can say, I want to be able to search all online users, and then exclude a custom group, and your custom group would be your management. So redirecting calls in auto attendant. How do we do this? So you can either disconnect or redirect a call. If you redirect a call, you can redirect it to a Skype for Business user, which should be an online user with a phone system license, to either a different call queue, which can be an online call queue in this tenant, a different auto tenant, or you can redirect to voicemail. So how do we redirect to voicemail? So to send this to voicemail, you would redirect to a person. You would create a user to which you would forward, log into this user once, and set this user to forward all calls to voicemail. So the menu options are built to give callers directions on how to reach their destination. To create a menu prompt, you can either do text to speech or upload your own. You can set your keys 0 to 9 to match custom destinations. You can create custom voice commands for those destinations, and you can configure dial by name. So when you're creating your menu prompt, make sure to instruct callers on how to navigate your system. They will not know that you can do text to speech or speech to text, so you will need to instruct them how to use the system in that menu options prompt. You can use text to speech with a maximum of 1,000 characters, or you can upload your own audio file. Make sure you create this in the language that's set for auto attendant. If your auto attendant is set to Spanish, you cannot type in English text and hope it's translated to Spanish. You must create in a language that is set for that auto attendant. You will need to update the prompt if you change your menu options. You can customize those menu options, and you can create your interactive flow to guide callers. Out of the box, dial by name is enabled, operator can be mapped to any key, repeat with star, and back with pound. Any key from 0 to 9 can be an option, and you can also use voice commands. So to add or remove options, you should press the key button to add an option. A new row for that specific key is created, and the keys can be added in any order. Select your transfer destination type and select the destination target. If you want to remove the option, you should press the button again. The transfer option is a drop-down menu, operator, person in your company, call queue, or auto attendant. If you select call queue, you can forward the calls to a different call queue. You will get the option in a new drop-down menu to select the call queue to which you want to transfer. So there's custom voice commands in menu where you have select one for sales. You can also do add text to speech to text. So you can say, well, one is configured for sales. So when people now say sales, that's actually a voice command. They can have multiple words such as sales department, but they can have a maximum of 64 characters. A key is also a voice command. So they can use DTMF to press one, they can say one, or they can say sales department. Note that if you have this configured for Spanish, you will need to put the voice commands in Spanish. They're not auto-translated. How do you operate Auto-Attendant? So go to the Skype for Business admin panel, open your call routing tab, and there are your Auto-Attendants. You can test them by pressing the test button, or and at that point you will dial the Auto-Attendant and test them. You can also edit them right from here. If you have any issues, you should open a support ticket. So, as a summary, we've learned that the Auto-Attendant can be used as a virtual receptionist. You can use call queues to distribute a large amount of calls. Online, hybrid and cloud connected configurations are fully supported. For more resources on trainings, go to skypeoperationsframework.com/academy. To learn more about service numbers, go to the aka.ms/sa-org-aa-sn URL. Skype Preview can be found at skypepreview.com. Our community is at aka.ms/sfb community, and our blog is at aka.ms/sfb blog. Thank you for watching this presentation, and we hope to see you next time.